Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The daughters of a Royal Bahamas Defense Force Marine who was killed while on duty at Government House speak out.
Attorney General Carl Bethel addresses the recent murder on Government House grounds.
The leader of the opposition now calling for answers following a killing at Government House.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, the daughters of a Royal Bahamas Defense Force Marine who was shot and killed while on duty at Government House say they are living their worst nightmare. In an emotional interview with Our News, the children of Petty Officer Philip Paul questioned how their father died while on the job. Jared Higgs reports.
This home off Farrington Road is where the children of Petty Officer Philip Paul knew that they could go to find him. Now that he's gone, they say a piece of their heart is missing.
Yes. We have a very close relationship with all of his children. There's nothing that we could not share with our father, nothing we could not get from our father. No event that happened in our lives that he was not there. This is a tremendous loss.
Petty Officer Philip Paul's three oldest daughters were inconsolable as they remembered the love they shared with their father. His second oldest daughter, 29-year-old Michaela Paul, says she is at a loss for words and wishes she could wake up from what she describes as a nightmare.
We cannot accept this. Never in a million years we thought it would come to this. I mean, he was at work. He was at work. He left home and said, "See y'all tomorrow, see y'all later," and never to return again.
Paul was shot to death in the guardroom of Government House by a man who entered the compound early Sunday morning. Paul was serving as guard commander at the time, and Police Commissioner Anthony Ferguson says the shooter took aim at other officers who were present. The 52-year-old veteran Marine leaves behind an 8-year-old granddaughter, two sons aged 14 and 23, and three daughters ages 33, 29, and 27.
That's my daddy. That's my daddy. We just laugh about it because we say only us of daddy and only him of kids. Like this, trust me, it's destroying. It's hurtful. Nothing can be said to comfort me or us right now.
27-year-old Latoya Paul says she and her siblings need an explanation.
We need some closure to this. We need some answers. He's been on the force over 30 years. And going to work and come home and we waiting on him. I stayed up, we waiting on him to open his door and say, he home all night. That's what we used to.
As old as we are, I mean, he still fixes breakfast in bed. So we're waiting for that room door to
right
open.
Now.
You coming out for breakfast or you want it in bed. It was nothing too good for his kids. We were his princesses.
Paul's oldest daughter, 33-year-old Laquelle Paul, was overwhelmed with emotion.
I'm so sorry. I can't do this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Police say they are talking to a person of interest in relation to Paul's death. However, Commissioner Anthony Ferguson would not confirm whether the individual is a fellow Royal Bahamas Defense Force officer. Meanwhile, Paul's daughters say the flame of his memory will never be extinguished.
This is my father, Michael. First of all, Michael Philip Paul. And he's not to ever be forgotten.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Meanwhile, Attorney General Carl Bethel called the killing on Government House grounds shocking and disturbing and called for a review of security protocol at Mount Fitzwilliam. Jasmine Brown reports.
The AG kicked off proceedings in the Senate this morning by sending condolences to the slain officer's family, as well as calling his murder both distressing and disturbing.
The fact that the murder took place on the hallowed ground of Government House, the historical and perpetual center of our nation state, and the official residence of Her Excellency the Governor General, our head of state, and also allegedly amongst members of her security detail, is also particularly disturbing. We trust that all relevant agencies will in due course take necessary steps to ensure that the law is upheld and that all necessary steps are taken to improve the security of Government House if it is found that there was, in fact, any lapses in security.
The AG says the most shocking aspect of the crime is the fact that the alleged killer is also a member of the Defense Force.
It is especially shocking that the alleged assailant is allegedly a fellow Royal Bahamas Defense Force member who would have had all necessary training.
Bethel also offered condolences to Propal's family, saying the loss of life due to an act of violence is an inherent tragedy and should always be deeply regretted.
We as a people should pray that the spirit of irrational and hateful anger and violence will forever depart from our country.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, while offering condolences to the family of the officer, opposition leader Philip Davis demanded that the Prime Minister and members of his cabinet further clarify what happened Sunday morning and what the implications are for Government House and foreign embassies in the Bahamas. George Urbain has that angle.
According to Davis, he doesn't believe that enough officers were on duty during the time of the killing.
A minimum of 8 officers ought to be stationed at or deployed at the Government House. A minimum of 8 to be able to properly provide the security services that was necessary for Government House and its environs. So with only 4 being there, it would seem to be a departure from that protocol that was in place.
According to Davis, this now brings into question the security levels at foreign embassies in the country and whether they are being properly looked after.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs ought to be noting and looking into whether or not these properties and institutions of foreign representations being properly looked after.
News about the fatal shooting at the nation's highest valued property made its rounds on social media hours before the media was able to get any confirmation from the police.
Any responsible government has the responsibility of ensuring that the Bahamian public is made aware of issues and incidents such as this, and to do so as quickly as possible, and so as to make it known as to what has happened, and then to address the issues as to how they are resolving the matter.
During Sunday's press conference, police would not confirm whether the shooter is a fellow Marine, as speculated on social media. However, Davis said this now calls into question the psychiatric evaluation process of those joining the armed forces.
Yes, it does call into question what we are doing in respect to ensuring that the proper vetting of personnel, their emotional state, their psychological state. You know, I call to mind when we do talk about our emotional state, the outburst by the Minister of National Security himself.
Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Bain.
All right, thanks, Giorgio. In other news, 1 week after a father of 4 was shot and killed in Chippenham, the man arrested in connection with his murder was charged in the magistrate's court. Jillian Gray reports.
Chadwick Capron in the blue jacket was brought before Magistrate Cara Turnquest DeVoe on 1 count of murder. It is alleged that on Monday, April 22nd, Capron caused the death of 34-year-old Brian Smith, a father of 4. Police say Smith was shot and killed, and it happened shortly after midnight on Foster Street in Chippenham. Many of his relatives stood outside court wearing shirts that said, "Rest in Paradise, Bobo." Some videotaped the accused as he walked in, and once court had begun, an argument had erupted outside between the accused's supporters and the victim's family. The argument could be heard from inside the court. Officers swiftly disbanded the crowd. 21-year-old Capron, whose alias is Oldie, was not represented by counsel, nor was he required to enter a plea. Capron will return to court on May 30th for a voluntary bill of indictment. Until then, he'll wait it out at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Minister of Labor Dion Folks revealing today that he has intervened in the ongoing dispute between Water and Sewage Executive Management and the 2 unions that represent employees. Folks also confirmed that he will issue a strike certificate to the Bahamas Utilities Service and Allied Workers Union.
I have decided to certify the strike vote for the line staff union, headed by Mr. Dwayne Woods. I will sign those certificates today. So between today and tomorrow, both management and the union should receive their certification.
Earlier this month, members of Busawu and the Water and Sewage Management Union took part in a strike poll. Though both unions maintained that they had the numbers to strike, Water and Sewage executives and Labor Director John Pinder disagree. While folks approved the strike certificate for Bahamas Utility Services and Allied Workers Union, the verdict is still out for the Water and Sewage Management Union.
I am seeking advice, legal advice on that matter. I hope to have it determined by tomorrow. I know there's some constitutional issues involved in terms of workers that do come out and vote, and they should get a determination as soon as possible.
Still to come, the BNT joins calls for environmental protection laws. Plus, government and O-band talks continue. Stay tuned.